Hello and welcome to Eye on Africa on France 24. I'm Vedika Bahel. Here's the headlines from across the continent. As we mark World Humanitarian Day, new data shows that in 2024, a record 383 aid workers were killed in the line of duty. Sudan was amongst the most deadly for aid workers, with African countries making up 6 of the 10 most dangerous nations for them to work in. A highly anticipated trial, now delayed on its first day. A Nigerian court postponed day 1 of proceedings for the 5 men charged with the deadly 2022 Catholic church attack in the country's southwest. Our correspondent will bring us the latest. And from landfill to lush park. In the Ivory Coast, a former mountain of garbage has been transformed into a city park space in what's a radical change of scenery for residents. Thank you for joining us. Today marks World Humanitarian Day, a day dedicated to recognising humanitarian personnel and raising awareness of the work they do and the sacrifices that they make. New data from the Aid Worker Security Report shows that a record 383 aid workers were killed in the line of duty in 2024. Figures that are up from 31% the year prior. And this year is also proving deadly, with 265 people killed so far in 2025. Most of these deaths in 2024 were in the Gaza Strip, with 181 humanitarian workers killed, and in Sudan, where 60 people lost their lives. 6 of the 10 most dangerous countries were on the African continent. Let's take a listen now to the UN humanitarian chief.
Already this year, hundreds more names, each with a family, each with a story. And this is more than a statistical spike. It is a stain. The normalization of violence against this community. Each attack on a colleague is an attack on all of us. And we do not accept it. Enough.
For more on this, I want to bring in Abby Stoddard, a humanitarian policy analyst and the lead author on this year's report. Abby, thank you so much for joining us here on Eye on Africa. Now, besides those killed, 383 aid workers, there's also been 308 aid workers recorded as wounded, 125 kidnapped and 45 detained last year. Can you tell us more about why is it becoming more dangerous for aid workers?
Well, the main cause, of course, is the escalation of major armed conflict around the world. When there's fighting and violence, aid workers are among the civilians that pay the price. But it's been markedly worse these past few years. And for the first time in our data, and we've been studying this for decades, it's state actors that are the leading perpetrators of this violence, which also reflects the conflict-driven causes.
Now, Sudan is amongst one of the most dangerous countries for aid workers. And there were many African countries on this list. There was the DRC, Nigeria, Ethiopia, Somalia. And as per your report, most of the aid workers killed were local aid workers, not international ones. Can you tell us, are they simply caught up in the violence on the ground, or is there a campaign against them? Is this sort of a targeted thing that we're seeing here?
It's both. Aid workers have been the victim of both collateral and direct targeted violence. And in parts of Africa and elsewhere in the world, they've actually been targeted online as well by smear campaigns and disinformation spread on social media. We're seeing that particularly in the Sahel. Insecurity Insight has a very detailed report on the sentiment affecting aid workers really souring in many countries. It is national staff that are bearing the brunt of these casualties, not only the national staff of international aid organizations, but increasingly the national organizations who are working in the most insecure areas, the most exposed to risk, and they're working without the same level of security resources that the international organizations tend to have.
And what does this violence against aid workers mean for the people that they're there to help? What are the repercussions for those people on the ground?
Well, it typically means that the aid presence decreases and people are left without access to vital services as the aid presence scales back. This has been, of course, exacerbated by the dramatic funding cuts led by the United States in cutting the USAID programs that has left millions without the aid programs they were reliant on, and has actually exposed the aid workers that remain to more risk because they are facing now the hostility and desperation of the communities where they were working.
And what do you think could be done to protect aid workers going forward against all of this violence that we're seeing? Are there systems that could be put in place to reduce these numbers, and what are they? How would that work?
Well, you know, it's not that the humanitarian organizations don't already have operational security systems. Security risk management has been professionalized and developed and advanced hugely over the past 20 years. But the threats have now escalated beyond what the organizations can mitigate. And it's really the international state actors that need to push back against the impunity and the really unraveling of international humanitarian law that we're seeing in the obstacles and the violence that aid workers face. These are the actors who are meant to be responsible for upholding international humanitarian law, and instead they are the main perpetrators of this violence. So that needs to change.
Thank you, Abby Stoddard, for joining us here on Eye on Africa. Abby Stoddard, humanitarian policy analyst. Thank you so much. In the Nigerian capital, the trial of the 5 men charged with carrying out a deadly Islamist attack on a Catholic church in 2022 began on Tuesday. The men are accused of being members of the Al-Shabaab terrorist group and have been remanded in custody until a court ruling on September 10th. The 2022 massacre took place in the southwestern city of Owo in Nigeria's Ondo state, when gunmen killed dozens of worshippers and left over 100 others wounded in an attack that rocked the nation. Our correspondent Chinwe Osondu brings us the latest.
The 5 men charged with carrying out a deadly massacre in southwestern Nigeria in 2022 have been denied bail after appearing in court in Abuja this Tuesday and have been remanded into custody until September 10th regarding their bail application. The suspects, who pleaded not guilty, have been arrested and in custody for 3 years after the military authorities had informed Nigerians on the development of the gunmen who attacked worshippers on Pentecost Sunday at St. Francis Catholic Church in Owo, Ondo State, killing no fewer than 40 worshippers and injuring at least 80 other people. The suspect's lawyer told the court that their prolonged detention was unjustified and asked them to be released on bail. But the prosecutor opposed the bail, citing national security and national security risk and alleged ties to foreign terrorist group linked to Al-Shabaab. He added that discrepancies in the bail application and alleged threats to witnesses were further grounds for denial. The insecurity challenges in Nigeria have more recently evolved to including clashes between nomadic herdsmen and stable farmers and attacks from kidnappers and armed bandits.
Cameroon is still reeling from a kidnapping last week that saw an 18-seater bus attacked in the country's far north near Zigagwe. 16 people are believed to still be in captivity, including 5 children from the same family. The armed attackers are believed to be Boko Haram militants, but no responsibility has yet been claimed. A ransom has been demanded in exchange for the children. Indira Ayuk reports from Yaoundé.
16 people, including women and children, have been abducted along the Kuseri-Marwa Highway in the far north region of Cameroon. The incident, which took place at the end of last week, has sparked reactions, especially from the opposition in Cameroon. Though the government of Cameroon is still to react officially to the kidnappings, it is a worrisome situation as the children, particularly 5 children who were amongst those, the 16 people kidnapped, are still in captivity. No group has claimed responsibility for the abduction. However, it is suspected that the men who took away the people could be members of the radical Boko Haram sect, which has terrorized populations in those parts of the country for the past 10 years. This recent abduction comes to remind Cameroonians and also people in the sub-Saharan region of Africa that the Boko Haram is still very much present, despite it having a drop in its activities over the past couple of years. years. Now, while hopes are up that the children still in captivity will be released in the hours ahead, all eyes are now turned towards the government of Cameroon to react and take steps towards ensuring the release of the 5 children.
Indira Ayuk there reporting from Yaoundé. To South Africa now, where the former breeder and owner of the world's largest rhino conservation farm was arrested Tuesday on horn smuggling charges, according to police. John Hume was arrested with 5 other people, allegedly linked to a fraudulent rhino horn scheme destined for illegal markets in Southeast Asia. It's an investigation that began as far back as 2017. The 6 appeared in a magistrate's court in the capital, Pretoria, and were granted bail, according to the Hawks Specialised Police Unit. Rhino horn trading is legal in South Africa amongst citizens, though local laws don't allow for their export due to an international ban. And finally, in the Ivory Coast, one city is pioneering urban innovation by turning trash into treasure. In Abidjan, what once used to be mountains of rubbish and waste now has begun a second life, transformed into one of the city's largest and most vibrant parks. Emily Boyle brings us the story.
Luscious and green, it's hard to believe that this new park was once one of Abidjan's largest landfills. After 5 years of construction, the urban park is finally ready to open.
I've lived here for 31 years. When I first arrived, there was waste everywhere and it made a lot of people unwell. We couldn't breathe because of the smells. All the garbage trucks came to dump the trash here. I would never have thought that it could become a park.
Akuedo landfill was opened in the 1960s. When it closed in 2018, an estimated 50 million tons of waste were dumped there. Local scientists had recommended the urgent closure and rehabilitation of the site after they found that people living in the area were dangerously exposed to poisoning from pollutants.
People complained about the smells, people complained about the loss of value of their investment. Today, we might think that what was lost has been largely regained.
The project cost €189 million and involved covering the waste with clay, creating a geomembrane to seal it from the outside environment. Built above decades' worth of rubbish, the Akuedo Park now spans 100 hectares and includes a market, a middle school and freshly renovated roads. It has also provided employment for hundreds of people in the neighbourhood.
It is so beautiful to see, so pretty. So I'll come back again.
Akuedo Park is a breath of fresh air for the Abidjan locals, who have demonstrated that one city's trash could actually be its treasure.
And that concludes our programme today. Thank you for watching Eye on Africa. Stay tuned to France 24.